Line's good.
Never on!
Whoa.
Hard! Hardly.
Come on, Brent. Line's good. Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham. Scott, not alongside. He's off getting his Taylor Swift shirt re-glittered to celebrate the release of her new album. So we're here with a bit of a news update while he's off doing that. It has been a newsy few days in the world of curling. Wanted to give a bit of an update on some of the issues that we have been talking about. And first and foremost, the big news of the past couple of days is that Jeff Plush is out as the CEO of USA Curling. He resigned on Friday following weeks of rather intense criticism from members and players in the United States. And this goes along with the issues with GNCC. So if you missed it, good for you for not having had to sit through what happened at the Members' Assembly last Friday night, as it was a long meeting and something unlike I had ever seen before. Now, I didn't sit through or watch the entire Members' Assembly at USA Curling, but it was available on YouTube for anybody who wanted to watch it. So I watched about an hour of it, and it was tough to watch. I watched a lot of the part where members were debating whether or not GNCC should be expelled from the organization. And there was something off about it to me. It didn't feel like the members who were speaking were really being heard. At one point, one of the members who supported the expulsion of GNCC from USA Curling moved to end the debate, and that was passed. And so they ended the debate, did a vote, and GNCC is no longer officially part of USA Curling. There was a bit of a discussion afterwards. Multiple people talked about their lack of confidence in Jeff Plush. And then the meeting just ended. And there were still hands up in the Zoom, but it just ended. So it was a very strange members' assembly. And coming out of that, there were people who were very upset with how it went and what the future of the organization looked like. Then, less than a week later, just under a week later, we get news that Jeff Plush had resigned from USA Curling. So the official statement from USA Curling that was released on Friday, that's the 28th of October, just said that USA Curling, the board of directors, unanimously accepted Jeff Plush's resignation. It goes on to say, quote, USA Curling recognizes that we are a membership organization with equal accountability to all our constituents, including recreational curlers, curling club leaders, coaches, fans of the game, athletes with competitive aspirations, and national team members. As the national governing body for the sport, we also work closely with and are grateful for the support of the USOPC, our sponsors and partners, and the World Curling Federation. Our steadfast commitment to the curling community has not changed, but in recent months, our relationship with this community has been damaged. We have not communicated effectively, and some believe we have not listened. There has been anger, frustration, and confusion. We see you, we hear you, we care about you. Our priority is to rebuild trust. To start that process, today we lead with action. And then they go on to note that Dean Gemmell has been appointed the interim CEO of USA Curling. That's a name that most of you are probably somewhat familiar with, at the very least. He's been a national champion in the United States. He's been involved at the club level and at the high performance level. So he will be the new voice, the new person leading USA Curling, at least on the interim basis. USA Curling also announced in their release that the Safe Sport claims will now be assigned to sporting director Katie Baker as well as Dean Gemmell. These are temporary, and that there will be a committee that will make further recommendations as well as review past reporting. This, of course, comes on the heels of Jeff Plush and the Yates report noting that he did not take full action to protect players when issues were brought to his attention. The statement goes on to note that, quote, "We cannot possibly address all the issues of concern in a single statement. There is more to come. The board has met several times this week and will be meeting again tonight to discuss further actions. Dean, who just learned of his appointment, is reaching out to staff, sponsors, partners, and other stakeholders. We look forward to him sharing his vision for the organization with the members in the coming weeks." So we will see what comes of all of this. I think part of the turning point for USA Curling could have been that both Goldline and Hardline put out statements this week criticizing the organization, noting, I believe it was Goldline's case, that they ended their relationship with USA Curling. So when you start to get into the sponsor level, that's when, and it's unfortunate this is a reality, but that's when organizations start to take notice. But whether or not that was ultimately what turned the tide, I don't know. All we know is that Jeff Plush resigned and that resignation was accepted. The DEI task force put out a statement not long after it was announced that Jeff Plush had resigned, saying, quote, "Dear curling community, thank you for everything you have done over the past few weeks. We've seen all of the statements you've made on behalf of yourself, your clubs, and our community. We admire the organizing you've done and all the work you've invested to support the effort for transparency and safety in our sport in the wake of the EH report. We are encouraged to hear that Jeff Plush, CEO of USA Curling, has resigned. We look forward to working with everyone and interim CEO Dean Gemmell to restore trust in our national governing body. The work continues." And I think it's that last part that is important to remember, that this is not the end for USA Curling. This is a step along the way, because the silence from the organization, the unwillingness to put forth whatever internal investigation they had into Jeff Plush and his actions when he was the NWSL commissioner, that is an issue that remains. And so seeing where the organization goes from this, that will be important to see. So this isn't the end by any means, but this is a step in the process. So we'll have to see where things go for USA Curling and whether or not they can rebuild that trust with their members and the curling community in the United States. But it certainly is a step in the right direction. So that is the news on that front coming out of the United States. A couple other news items that we want to touch on real quick. Over the weekend, of course, we had the Grand Slam victories for Rachel Homan over Carrie Anderson on the women's Tier 1 side. And on the men's Tier 1 side, Niklas Edin beat Matt Dunstone, except Niklas Edin did not beat Matt Dunstone because Niklas Edin was injured prior to the semifinal on Saturday night as he was getting into the hack. He injured his knee, which was hilariously referred to as a lower body injury for some reason. When we could all see the trainer was working on his knee. And also, this isn't hockey or football where an opponent is going to potentially target an injured body part, although it'd be interesting to see how that could be done. I'm not advocating for it. I would be just curious how you would even do it. So Niklas Edin did not play in either the semifinal or the final. They did play with three, with Oscar Eriksson throwing the last stones. Interesting to me, at least, that Christopher Sundgren was holding the broom and calling line for Oscar Eriksson, not Rasmus Rana. That could be related to Christopher Sundgren. He had surgery over the summer to heal a hip injury that he had, so having him not sweep a little bit could have helped in that regard. But I found that a somewhat interesting choice to have Sundgren in the house, but it worked for them. So Team Niklas Edin gets the victory there. What I think is really interesting about this, though, is there's this narrative out there that Nick Edin can't win Grand Slams and that the World Championships or his status is somewhat compromised by his record in the Grand Slams, which isn't great for somebody as good as him and for as good as they are. And now they've won this one without Nick Edin playing. So I wonder if those individuals who feel like the World Championships are compromised by the record in the Grand Slams are going to be emboldened now and say, well, see, like, they don't even need him. Like, I'm just curious to see what the reaction will be from those individuals. Hopefully it's not sort of too bad, but that is something that came to mind watching that game last Sunday. as Niklas Edin was on the sidelines. But more importantly than the narrative, though, is Niklas Edin's health. As of recording this, I have not heard anything about how he is doing. The team hasn't tweeted anything since their victory, so we will see. We will certainly find out at the Euros coming up later in November if Niklas Edin is playing or not. That's the next big event for them. So we'll have to see whether or not he's good to go for the European Championship. And speaking of Continental Championships, we are coming up on the first Pan Continental Curling Championship that is kicking off on Monday, Halloween, in Calgary. This is the first edition of this event. It is replacing both the Pacific Asia Curling Championship and the Americas Challenge. So we have all the teams from the Americas as well as the Pacific Asian teams that are competing. There is an A and a B draw for this. So it works very similar to the Euros, just minus the C division. It's only A and B here. And we do have uneven fields in terms of the numbers, men's versus women's, in both the B and the A. And that's for a couple different reasons. On the B side, it's just there's more men's teams who have put in teams to the competition. And on the A side, you have one extra women's team in the field, as Australia, that would have been in the Pacific Asia Curling Championship last year, could not attend back in 2021. So they did get the spot on the women's side. So you have 9 women's teams to the field of 8 on the men's side for the A. So you do have the uneven fields, but that's sort of just a product of the circumstances, at least in the A division, and just the number of teams who put in on the B division. This, as I said, is going to work a lot like the European Championship. It is the qualifier for the Worlds. On the men's side, the top 4 teams, other than Canada, will qualify for the Men's World Curling Championship. Canada gets the auto spot because it is going to be in Ottawa in April, so Canada is automatically in as the host. So the other 4 teams are in. Whoever finishes last in the A division will be relegated down to B for next year, and the top finisher, whoever wins the B division, will get that promotion up to A for 2023. On the women's side, because they have the extra team, the bottom 2 finishers will be relegated to B, and the top B division team will be promoted up to A for next season. And because the host country of the 2023 World Championship is not in the field here, the top 5 women's teams in A will qualify for the World Championship. That is going to be held in Sweden. So we'll run through the teams really quick. We have Guyana, skipped by Rayad Hussein. Hong Kong, represented by our friend Jason Chang. India, skipped by P.N. Raju. Kazakhstan, led by Adil Zumagoza. Oliver Achenji skips Kenya. Harold Woods, who has appeared on Rocks Across the Pond, skips the Nigerian side. Qatar, skipped by Abdul Rahman Mozen. And Alistair Fife and his Saudi Arabian squad rounds out the field on the men's side for B. On the women's B side, smaller field, as I said, only 4 teams here, with Heidi Lin leading Chinese Taipei. Mercy Ngovi skips the Kenyan side. Adriana Camarena is going to throw the final stones for the Mexican team. And finally, Nigeria, skipped by Antigua Washington. So those are the 4 women's teams in the B side who will be competing to get up to A next year. And then on the A side, 8 teams in the men's field. First off is Australia with Jay Merchant. He's going to be throwing the last stones. Dean Hewitt is going to be calling the games. Dean Hewitt, a familiar name to a lot of folks out there, so it'll be fun to see him. Brazil, Marcelo Cabral de Melo. We've seen him at a variety of events, America's Challenge. So this is going to be obviously a new event for him, but he is a name that you might have come across in past years. Canada is going to be led by defending Brier champion Brad Gushu. Chinese Taipei will be skipped by Randolph Shen. Japan will have Yanagisawa Riku throwing the final stones, calling the game, and Jeong Byung-jin will be doing the same for the Koreans. New Zealand, skipped by Anton Hood. And finally, Corey Dropkin and his Young Bucks team coming off a Tier 2 victory at that Grand Slam last weekend will be representing the United States. On the women's side, as I mentioned, 9 teams in the field here, top 5 getting to the World Championship. Start with Australia, the team that could not participate last year, 2021, at the Pacific Asian Curling Championship. Jennifer Westhagen leads the team into Calgary. Brazil, skipped by Isis Oliveira. Carrie Anderson and her defending Scotty champion team, having just lost the final of that Grand Slam to Rachel Homan. They'll be representing Canada. Another friend of the show, Ling Yu Hung, is skipping the Hong Kong team. I can speak to Lynn's skill and ability as a player. She's beaten me multiple times before, so it'll be fun to see Ling out there. Fujisawa Satsuke is the Japanese representative. Angelina Ebauer is going to be skipping the Kazakhstan side. Ha Sung-yun is representing Korea. The New Zealand team is skipped by Jessica Smith. And finally, Tabitha Peterson and her squad is going to represent the United States. So those are the 9 teams. 5 spots available for the World Championship, and the bottom team going down to B. All right, and so with that, it is picks time. But since Scott is not here, our mom is here. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Sean.
All right, so you've heard this before, how we do the picks for these events. It's like the Euros. This might be part of our bad beer bet with Jonathan and Ryan. We're not sure. We're not sure yet. But for this event, yes, I want you to pick, and these are representing Scott too. These are Scott's picks because he's not here. We'll find out how good these picks are, which of your 2 sons are your favorite. This will be the deciding factor. So we'll start with the women's side.
Yes.
In the A, 5 teams to get the World Championship berths out of this event.
Very good. Canada.
Yep.
Japan.
Big Fujisawa fan.
Big Fujisawa fan. Absolutely. The United States with Tabitha Peterson.
2 more.
Yeah. Let's go with Kazakhstan.
Ooh, and a little off the board pick.
Off
I like that. A bit of an upset. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's try New Zealand.
And New Zealand, okay. Wow, going a bit crazy. An upset-filled round there. You don't have Korea.
I don't
getting
have Korea.
Through.
I just have not a good feeling about them right now.
So again, Canada, Japan, the United States, Kazakhstan, and New Zealand.
Correct.
Those are representing Scott. So for me, I'm going to agree with you on at least the first 3, Canada, Japan, and the USA for sure. Right. I'm going to go with Korea. I think just the country's acumen, specifically on the women's side. There's a lot of really good women's Korean teams.
True.
So I'm going to put Korea through. And I think the battle is for the 5th spot when I look at this field.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go fully biased. And I'm going to go with Hong Kong and Ling because she's local to us, played against her. So I'm going with the Hong Kong side to get through on the women's, that 5th spot. So I'm going Canada, Japan, USA, and Korea. So on the men's side, we only have 4 going through to the World Championship. Canada is like the center box in a game of bingo. It is free therein. Before we do that, though.
Yes.
Who gets relegated? Let's make a country mad.
Ooh, okay. Yikes. On the women's side, right?
Yeah, on the women's side. Okay. Out of those 9, who finishes last?
Absolutely last. I would go with Brazil.
And I'm going to agree with you. I think it's Brazil as well. Nothing against Team Oliveira, but I think it'll be probably an 0-8 for whoever goes.
Whoever gets relegated.
Yeah, yes. So it'll be sort of a series of games. Like whether it's Brazil, with all due respect to Kazakhstan, maybe that's the game potentially. That is the decider. I don't know. But we'll have to see certainly how the teams stack up. But I think schedule will be an issue here too. When do you play some of those teams who are lower ranked in the world rankings?
Right.
So, and do you get your bearings? So it'll be interesting to see that. So those are the 6 picks on the women's side. Let's go to the men's side, where again you have 4 picks for who gets into the World Championship.
Picks. Okay. Well, we have to go with the young guns from the U.S. with Corey Dropkin.
Just won the Tier 2.
Yeah. I think Japan.
Always a good contender.
Yeah. Korea. Okay. And I need one more. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yikes. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb.
Okay. Go for it.
New Zealand.
New Zealand. All right. Our Anton Hood.
Anton Hood.
Get to the spot.
Yeah.
All right. Who do you think gets relegated out of the A side for next season?
So I'm not sure about the Brazil, Chinese Taipei.
Yeah, I agree that I think that's where
those are the 2, right? Let's make it Brazil across the board there for relegation.
All right, that sounds good. So for me, I'm going to agree with the USA and Japan and Korea getting through, but I am going to go with the experience of the Australian side with Jay Merchant, Dean Hewitt to get that 4th spot. And I think I'm going to agree with you on Brazil. I am nervous because these guys, some of them have played on the arena ice before. Mm-hmm. So maybe that gives them a bit of an advantage over Chinese Taipei potentially. Sure. But we will have to see. So again, I think maybe the winner of that game is the one that doesn't get relegated, like the Brazil-Chinese Taipei game potentially. Yeah. So that'll be an interesting one to keep our eyes on. It won't be on TV, so we can't watch it. No, but it will be interesting to see. Exactly. So those are our picks on the A side. The B side's a little easier in that there's fewer picks. I think it's actually harder to pick, but only one team goes up, men's and women's side.
Right.
All right, so this time let's start on the men's side and who gets promoted up to the B. It's a big field, and you only get one pick.
It is a big field. Well, I think we have to go with our friend Jason from Hong Kong.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with Hong Kong as well. They have a lot of experience from the packs. Jason, as well as Ling, actually just competed in the mixed World Championship that was won by Jean-Michel Menard. Right. Again, local to us.
Yay, Canada.
In Ottawa. So, they're just coming off of that. I'm going to go with Hong Kong here as well. And then on the women's side, 4 teams competing. One will get promoted. Who is it?
Well, with the roll of the die, it is Mexico.
All right, so you're going with Mexico. I'm going to go with Chinese Taipei, and that will be the pick there. So, Mom, thanks.
You're welcome.
So if you're in Canada, all these games, or at least the Canada games, are going to be on TSN as well as the playoffs. So traditionally, that means if you're in the US, you can watch them on ESPN 3. So hopefully you can. And I would imagine that the games will be broadcast in Japan as well, at least the Japanese games. Maybe the games that are not on TV will be on recast as well if you're out there in not Canada, the United States, or Japan. But hopefully that you can catch them. Should note that China is not participating because they have withdrawn all of their teams from international competition for the season. Still not entirely sure why. We'll have to see what the ramifications are long term. First year of the quad, whatever. We'll see if they come back. So again, it kicks off Monday, Halloween. Hopefully it's not a scary event there in Calgary. If you're going, enjoy it. If you're watching, hopefully it's good curling. So with that, that'll do it for us this week. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. If you have not yet, please do subscribe wherever you get your shows. Do the comments, likes, ratings, all that good stuff to help other people find the show. Keeps us growing. Of course, you can always head on over to GameOfThronesPod.com and find all of our past episodes, plus a link to the merch. I'm currently wearing my appropriately sized hoodie. Mom, is this better than my oversized hoodie?
Well, I'm not sure. Is it just as warm as your oversized hoodie?
It's slightly less cozy, but it's more practical.
It's more practical. It something that you can wear out and about.
Right. And I've been wearing it curling too. So it's good for third. It's not great for front end. A little too warm for front end, but good for third. So I don't know if it'd be great for skipping. Maybe something a little warmer for skipping.
Or wear your icebreaker underneath.
Or something. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. See how it works. I don't skip. I don't want to skip. It's a moot point for me. So, but you can check out the merch. All proceeds from the t-shirts to Food Banks Canada, proceeds from everything else to Sandra Schmirler Foundation. We, of course, match those at Game of Stones Pod on Twitter and Instagram, Game of Stones Podcast on Facebook, and you can reach out, Game of Stones Podcast at gmail.com. So enjoy the curling. Are you excited, Mom?
I'm very excited. There's lots of curling happening now.
Everything is happening. So enjoy it, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week. But until then, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.